Welcome to the Daily Swole. Welcome everyone to episode 17 of the Daily Mother Swole. Thank you so much for joining me. It's Monday, so it's a great start to the week. This is gonna be a great opportunity to kind of start fresh because today we are talking about clean diet tips. I usually don't like the word diet, but everyone uses it. So I figure, you know what, we have to actually use the actual vernacular that people are going to be referring to or understanding when they're going to the supermarket or when they're going to the market, farmer's market, it doesn't really matter. So let's get into it. I would like today to be a lot of Q&A. I think there's going to be a lot of benefits to a Q&A. So I'm going to talk for a couple minutes, give a little pointers, kind of, stir the pot a little bit and get everyone kind of, their feet wet with the angle I'm trying to get to or go with, or the direction I'm going with clean diet. Get you thinking about a couple different things, and then what we're going to do is take some Q&A. So first things first, organic or conventional. That's a whole other, swole in itself in terms of how we can get into more of that. But generally, what conventional food means is that it's used, it could be genetically modified, GMO, that's what it means. It could be something that is sprayed with a chemical to prevent any kind of bugs eating it, things of that nature. So it can affect the body. There isn't a lot of research. I mean, there is research that these things are cancerous or pre-cancerous. It can cause cancer, can cause, maleffects with, birth defects and stuff down the line, but there's so many other environmental factors. And we do a lot of stuff as a nation, especially in the United States, that, pretty much pushes everyone towards an unhealthy direction. So these chemicals, obviously, I would say are not good. They're not going to be good for you, but at the same time, they're cheaper, it's more effective, it's more it's better to be purchased, let's say, organic if possible. There's certain things that you should buy organic. This is something you can look up. It's called the Dirty Dozen. Every year, there's a couple companies that go out there and they test all these different foods, and they will tell you which foods that you should be more paying attention to in terms of eating organic over conventional. So it's called the Dirty Dozen. Look up the list, and a lot of times those are berries. There are things like blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, things that bugs would normally go crazy for. If you are a farmer or you have a little garden, you know how hard it is to grow strawberries, and you can have a show of hearts or a show of hands or a show of little hearts over on Busker. You can click like, by the way, click that B. So these types of foods, there you go, these types of foods are going to be, I would say, you should try to get organic if you can, but it gets expensive. So you do what you can and you do the best you can when it comes to organic and or conventional. Eating towards the outer edge of the supermarket. So if you ever go to the supermarket, I'm not sure what it's like in other countries, so if you live in Australia, UK, Russia, something like that, I'm talking about strictly from my experience in the United States. All the aisles in the center are going to be either frozen foods, things that are preserved, or aisles where there's going to be crackers, chips, sodas, things that have a shelf life of months and months and months and months. Anything around the sides are going to be like the meats, the produce. So generally, if you stick to the outsides of the supermarket, that's a great start. Instead of reading ingredients, eat without ingredients. Most of those items on the outside, there's no ingredients in a banana. There's no ingredients in a piece of steak. There's no ingredients in a sweet potato. A sweet potato is a sweat potato. A banana is a banana, and so forth. So if you're eating around the outsides, things that will spoil, generally, even if it's bread, and they put a lot of things in bread, but if it was natural, if it was something that was naturally produced or fresh produced in the store, in the bakery, those things that rot, that go bad, are better for you. In general, things that go bad are better for you. That's just the way it is. Anything that's in a box that could be good in 6 months and taste the same, that's why I'm not a big fan of protein bars and most supplements, because most supplements, any kind of food supplement, is going to be able to be preserved for long periods of time. There are a few out there that are better than others and some that I would support, but for the most part, if you can eat whole foods, eat whole foods. If you eat whole foods that are going to be, that can decay, that can go bad, because you don't want to eat things that are preserved, because guess what? That goes in your body, and you don't want to put preservatives and shit in your body if you can help it. All right, and there you can slack sometimes. You can enjoy your life, but on a regular basis, you have to make the right choices. So by and large, you have to make the right choices on the regular. So think about this kind of thing on the regular. What are you doing regularly to improve your diet? Okay, so eating without ingredients. Try to avoid foods with ingredients, or if they do have ingredients, maybe 1 or 2 ingredients. Make sure that you are eating around the edge of the supermarket. That's a great start. Okay, start observing foods that rot. Think about if you put it on a table, if you know what it's packaged in, if it's going to go bad, and opt for seasonings. Opt for spices, opt for flavorings from other foods. Use like Himalayan salt or Celtic sea salt. Use things like pepper, garlic, onion. Use things like healthy fats like avocado, coconut oil. These things give flavor, but it's not table salt. It's not sodium chloride. You're not putting ketchup or mustard all over it. Not that those things are bad, but you can get good choices. You don't want to put seasonings or salad dressings that have high fructose corn syrup. Make your own. Get some olive oil, get some MCT oil, get some coconut oil, and mix some balsamic vinegar and put some spices in there. Put some oregano or put some basil. You can rosemary. You could chop this stuff up, make it yourself. Very cheap. You can grow that on a plant in your house. Rosemary or basil, and they're very cheap. Those plants are like $2. So you can definitely have fresh spices and implement that into your nutrition, and you don't have to worry about all these artificial flavorings, all these artificial things that are going to be retaining water and causing you problems. Okay, so nix the preserved stuff, nix the preserved shit, and start adding more healthy natural spices and seasonings into your diet. Okay, use your head. Certain foods are more satisfying. Now, clean diet tips also goes into how you're eating. Avoid high protein, low carb, and low fat diets. If you're going to go high protein or you're going to go moderate protein, make sure you're eating either some carbohydrates and some fats, because if you're just going high protein, you're not going to be satisfied and you're going to start to binge and cheat more. It's going to be hard to stay on a diet, especially if it's a low carb, if you're not complementing that with a higher fat intake, like avocados, coconut oil. I use like your grass-fed butter, grass-fed beef, things that are higher in fat content, but healthy fats, okay? Healthy fats, not like really, grease, like nasty, like McDonald's grease. Healthier fats and processed and metabolized fats will be more satisfying, so you'll stay more full. If you go high protein or moderate protein and you're not, you're just going low carb, low fat, you're not gonna stick to your diet, you're gonna crash because your body will not be satisfied. It'll be hard to stick to that, okay? Any questions so far? Okay, those are some clean diet tips. Also, in the morning, start drinking water. Hydrate. If you hydrate in the morning, if you start drinking water immediately upon waking up, if you start using some apple cider vinegar, some organic Bragg's with the mother in it, with the pulp, organic apple cider vinegar, if you add that into your water in the morning with some lemon, and you start drinking water and chugging it, first thing when you wake up, what you're gonna get from that is a more neutralizing effect in the stomach. You're going to improve your body's ability to gauge how hungry you are. If you are drinking more water, if you're more hydrated, your thirst mechanism will be satisfied and your hunger mechanism can actually process the way it's supposed to. If you don't drink enough water, if you don't drink enough fluids, what's going to happen is your body will increase your hunger mechanism because it's not getting satisfied. The thirst mechanism is not being responded to. So those of you that are on Periscope, those of you that are on Busker, those of you that are watching on YouTube, make sure that you are drinking plenty of water early in the morning. Drink water about 10-15 minutes before you eat your meal, and your real hunger mechanism will actually come out. Okay, those are a couple bullet point tips. Let's take some Q&As, because I know with clean diet tips, you guys are gonna have a lot of questions. So fire away. Any questions about clean eating, making the right decisions? On Busker, do you usually always suggest higher fat than carbs? That's a great question. Now we're talking about clean diet tips, how to eat healthy. In terms of how to see certain results, most times people are gonna go, they're gonna play around with certain macronutrients, which are protein, fat, and carbs. Those are called macros. Most of us want to keep body fat low. Most people that are getting into fitness, most of you that are watching these at home and on the road, you are looking to lose fat. You're looking to maintain muscle or build muscle and cut body fat. That is going to be mostly playing with carbs, in my personal experience. Playing with carbs is going to determine whether or not you're going to be storing more body fat or getting leaner. So I always opt for lower carbs and keeping the fat higher. Your body will be more fat adapted, you'll metabolize fats better, and those carbohydrates will end up retaining less water, and your body will be on more of a fat burning mode all day long. So you'll allow your body to take more energy and fat from your body that's already stored rather than adding more on. Anytime you're increasing carbohydrate intake and you're doing a lot of carbs, and especially when you start slacking, you start eating kind of crappy carbs, you will spike insulin, which when there's too much insulin and there's too much shuttling of sugar or glucose that you're eating to the muscles and you don't need all that, what's going to happen is your body will just store extra as body fat, and then you'll actually keep more on. And water comes and goes with carbs, but keeping it more moderate, keeping it lower, in my opinion, is better. I like keeping my carbs in check. How much cardio for fat burning? That's a great question. I'm usually, and that could be a whole other episode too, just talking about cardio. In terms of fat burning, you want to stoke your metabolism. You might want to watch, I think it was number 15, episode 15 on podcast. It's going to be online soon, but you can also check the replay. I think I forgot to push save for this actual podcast, so you're going to miss that one. I forgot to put hashtag save, but number 15 is going to be carb cycling, where you can cycle your carbs. So that could be something that you could look into. In terms of cardio, I'm not a huge fan of long, slow duration, like half an hour of cardio, 40 minutes. I like interval sprinting, so higher intensity and shorter duration, doing like maybe an all-out 10, 20, 30-second sprint, and then maybe a couple minutes rest, and then doing it again. So cyclical, high-intensity interval sprinting is more effective for EPOC, for excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, which will cause your body to utilize more fats on the long term when you're not exercising after you're done. Okay, so good question, very good. I'm not a huge like, hey, hop on the treadmill and just go. I'm more build muscle, get your intensity up, and then burn more fat throughout the whole day. What are your favorite kinds of complex carbs? I feel like I get bored with mine sometimes. I get bored with mine too. I eat sweet potatoes all the time. Lately, I've been having a little craving for bread, so I've been doing Ezekiel bread. And since I don't have celiacs, I'm just kind of gauging how I feel with the gluten and with the Ezekiel bread. And I feel fine. It has been a nice mix. But sweet potatoes, in my opinion, you never want to do one food too long, too often, because your body could build up a resistance to it. And you don't want to create an allergic reaction or create like a sensitivity to a certain food. Like you don't want to eat eggs all the time forever. You don't want to eat potatoes all the time forever. Even if it's good, I react well to sweet potatoes, but I like to back off a little bit. Like I went off grass-fed beef for a little bit just because I just felt like I wanted something else. I've been doing a lot more, not vegetarian, well I guess so, I've been eating eggs, not vegan, but doing a lot more eggs lately. But you can also do too many eggs. A lot of people have egg sensitivity, or they have allergic reactions to eggs, or they get very gassy. So you have to kind of find out what works for you, but that's a great question. In terms of being repetitive, you can play around with the brown rice. The most important thing is your net carbs. You want to make sure that your net carbs are relatively low, so eat more high fibrous carbs. Make sure you get your vegetables, your insoluble fiber. Make sure you're doing broccoli and all those types of things in addition with your carbs. When you are eating the same food again, you can build up a sensitivity or resistance to it. But my favorite are sweet potatoes. Really, sweet potato, oatmeal. And but you could try also seasoning these things in different ways so they don't get old. But you could try different kinds of potatoes. But yams, sweet potatoes, brown rice, oatmeal, the standards. There really aren't, and honestly, there aren't a lot of like really quality variety of carbs, but you can affect the absorption. And I talked about glycemic index when I talked about carb cycling, the sensitivity, the glycemic index number, the higher the number, the higher of an impact that sugar or that food will have on your bloodstream. So if you're mixing, if you're having some fiber like vegetables with white potatoes, that will help slow the absorption of those white potatoes rather than finding, let's say, a food that only has high fiber in itself. You can combine foods and that'll help adjust the absorption of the sugar into the bloodstream. So if you add combinations, I'm not saying eat broccoli and drink Coca-Cola, but if you combine certain foods in certain ways, it can change the absorption rate and affect the glycemic index. So these things are tested by themselves when you do glycemic index. Potatoes, yams. They're not eating yams with broccoli with X, Y, and Z. So combinations can affect your body's absorption of these same nutrients. Do you think carbs at night are bad? And if not, what's a good carb to have at night? It depends. You might find that your total macro intake for the day is what you have to focus on. So as long as you're getting, let's say, X amount of carbs for the entire day, it doesn't matter when you eat them. I would be careful eating carbs too close to bedtime in general, just because when you're eating carbohydrates, the reason for that is because you want to like keep your body fat lower. Remember, this is a goal. If you're talking about health, that's one thing. If you're talking about seeing a physical aesthetic result, that's a whole other tool. And I talk about food being a tool, I talk about exercise being a tool, I talk about what you're doing being a tool. So if you want B, you might have to, or C, you might have to do A plus B. Whether or not that's like the epitome of health, A plus B, like if you want to get on stage for bodybuilding, that's not healthy, but you have to do certain things to do that. So there's health and there's I want to look a certain way. Looking a certain way isn't necessarily directly correlated with health. Just keep that in mind. Just because you're lean and shredded, you can be too lean and shredded, which affects vitamin retention because vitamins are some vitamins are fat soluble. So if you have really low body fat, you can't keep a lot of vitamin A, you can't keep a lot of vitamin E in the body because you don't have a lot of places to put it. So you put a lot of strain on the body. So you have to be careful combining, lean and ripped with healthy. Okay, big difference between lean and ripped and healthy. So make sure you're still getting your nutrients. That's why it's not healthy and natural to be really like, 9, 8, 7, 6% body fat all the time. It's okay to be 10 or 11 all year round. Ideally, a lot of people be like, of course it's okay. I would love to be 10 or 11. But you get my point. It's better to have a more healthier physique in general, obviously for life. So in terms of, I got off on a tangent. See how that goes? I forgot the question. What was I talking about? That happened. I went off and I was talking. It was good stuff, but what were the other carbs? Oh, carbs at night. Thank you. See, I love the interaction here. Thank you. Make sure you guys stay on track. If you ask me a question, make sure you remember your question because I'll probably forget it. The carbs at night. So, if you're eating at night, let's say you worked out earlier in the day at 12 o'clock, your meals that are right after that workout are the ones that are more responsible for replenishing glycogen, which is a storage form of glucose in the body. Your liver is going to resaturate and your muscles are going to resaturate with glycogen, with glucose. After that, later on in the evening, you don't need as much sugar, you don't need as much fuel. It's like your car. If your car is sitting in the garage, you don't need to keep on putting gas in it. It's not going anywhere. If the tank is full, why keep filling it up with gas? That's why it's beneficial to keep your carbs lower or moderate and then keep that around to when you work out. So earlier in the day, before your workout, right after. That's why I only have my Sour Patch Kids around my workout. That's my treat, that's my candy, but I only do that when I'm training because that's when my body will be mobilizing, metabolizing, and utilizing those sugars. In the evening, let's say I worked out at 12 noon, and then later on I'm like eating candy at night, I'm just pounding, just potatoes. If I already saturated my glycogen stores, if I already did that earlier, then I'm just potentially getting extra more than I need, which will raise insulin levels, and there's nowhere to bring the sugar. Your body will be releasing insulin and then going to pick up the sugar, like, where do I take it? There's nowhere to go. Shit. Well, let me just convert them to triglycerides and store them and save them for later. And they get stored as body fat. So this is different for someone who has a lot more muscle because you have more lean mass and you can maintain a physique better by eating a higher caloric intake. But most important thing is you're getting your total calories for the entire day and the nutrient timing. So nutrient timing is just as important as what you're eating. When you're eating it is just as important as what you're actually eating. Okay? Really, really, really good question. Is sugar okay as long as it comes from natural foods? Sugar is sugar. Sugar is sugar. Your body will process, obviously, maybe glucose or fructose differently than it will high fructose corn syrup because there's certain other hormonal effects. But sugar is still sugar. You still don't want to be pounding tons of fruit late at night because those things get into the bloodstream quicker, potentially, than, for example, something with higher fibrous in it. So sugar, just because it's a natural sugar, it's still raising your insulin. It's still better than getting like sweet and lower artificial sweeteners, but you have to understand that your body, if you're bouncing around from these healthy foods, if you're changing your diet, if you're changing your nutrition, and this is something I really want you to understand, if you're changing your nutrition and your body has not been trained to metabolize fats, to metabolize sugar, to really be in this healthy mode, what's going to happen is you just switch and start doing, natural sugar. Your body hasn't learned yet. So you really have to retrain your body for a while. I would be careful of all types of sugar. I would not do like fruit smoothies at like really late at night if you've already replenished your glycogen stores. Try to keep fat lower. Stick to more like fibrous, healthier fruits, things that are like bananas and apples. Honestly, they're not the best choices, again, in my opinion. Okay, you can look this stuff up. Blueberries, blackberries, strawberries. These berries have a lot higher phytonutrients, a lot more antioxidants in them. The really rich, colorful fruits are better for you. The problem is those are some of the foods that are usually the dirty dozen that get sprayed a lot. So, you know, organic blackberries and all these things that are non-GMO and healthier berries, man, you go to Whole Foods or something like that, those berries are expensive. And they know that. There's no mystery. There's no mystery here. They'll jack up the prices of the things that they know people should be buying organic. They're not fools. They know how to scam us out of our money. Just be careful. You know, pick and choose. I like frozen berries a lot too, because they clean them before they bag them. So a lot of times they spray them, you know, and get all the crap off before you get to them. I mentioned this at the beginning, how much better is organic than other types of food. It depends. Like sweet potatoes are things that are like, you know, fruits that are like encased. You don't necessarily have to get organic, but look up the Dirty Dozen. It'll tell you, it'll give you an idea of what foods you should or should not be eating organic. Dirty Dozen. Okay? I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. I'm going to sign off the podcast. Thank you so much for joining. Remember, I'm here daily on Busker and Periscope at 12 noon Eastern Time. Make sure you check out the podcast on SoundCloud. Follow me on Snapchat. Follow me on Periscope because I do other things. I start broadcasting workouts and live workouts with classes, and I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on YouTube, exercise videos. So stay tuned, follow me, check it out. If you're interested in fitness coaching, you can message me on Snapchat. You can email me at swolenormous@gmail.com for one-on-one coaching and fitness guidance. And you know, let's keep the dialogue going. Make sure that you stick around. I will answer a couple more questions, and I will be here every day, 12 noon Eastern Time on the Daily Swole. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. Number 17, clean diet tips. I will see everyone mañana. Peace out.